Hi, Saul.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for joining us today.
That's all right.
You have a gig tonight, and we're going to be looking forward to watching that. I'm going to start by saying I think Adventures in Limbo is a very beautiful album.
Thanks, man.
I've been listening to that a lot. It makes me think of like autumn days in 1965 in Twin Peaks. You know, with the flutes.
Yeah.
And it's got a kind of, like a gentle, like autumnal.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I mean, it was made at that time of year, and it has that kind of melancholy kind of feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's not winter.
No.
It's not spring.
It's definitely not spring.
Yeah. But I say Twin Peaks, but it has a lot of like Englishness and England in it. What led you to go in this more gentle direction?
Well, I mean, I've been doing Fat Whites for, I guess, about 10 years at the point that I went to make that record. I'd been writing those songs while on tour with Fat Whites, just writing them on the tour bus.
Yeah.
And I didn't really plan on doing anything with them, and I was just playing them to friends, and people were like, "Oh, you've got to release this stuff." It's really good. I was a bit embarrassed by it.
Why?
At the time, because I don't know, it was kind of I've never made that kind of music.
Right, yeah.
I guess the music for me has always been a bit of a front, and then it was a bit more personal and like you say, very gentle.
Yeah.
And so it was more emotional.
There's less to hide behind, right?
Less to hide behind.
No screaming and like rock and roll stereotypes or
So it was a kind of natural thing, I guess. Also, in a way, it's like getting older, making music and trying to do it in a more kind of dignified way.
Dignified,
if possible.
Yeah.
I'm not succeeding always at that.
Well, we can't be like 100% dignified all the time, I guess, right?
No, that would be absurd.
That's the fun of it, yeah. It's called Adventures in Limbo, and like you're being held in limbo by your record label, Domino Records, at the moment, right? Did that inspire the title? No.
The title is I got the title from there's an artist called Austin Osman Spare, who was a magician and an artist who was from Brixton, but he was around at the turn of the century. He had a book called Adventures in Limbo. I actually lived in the flat that he used to live in. Right. And a lot of mad things happened in that flat. I kind of felt like I was possessed by the spirit of Austin Spare at a point.
Wow.
And I stole the title from him, which is kind of why I feel that I feel like he might have jinxed the record, and which is why it's been.
So that was before this shit went down, right?
Yeah, because Domino signed the record, and it was the day before it was supposed to be announced that it was going to be released, and they said they were going to hold off, and then they kept holding off, and then eventually they just said they weren't going to release it. The label I used to be signed to before I signed to Domino wanted to buy it off Domino, offered them the same amount of money that they paid for it. They don't want to sell it either, so they don't want to sell it and they don't want to release it. They don't want to let it go. They say that they're going to release it one day, so hopefully they stay true to their word.
Do you think they're holding on to it because they want to release it, or
I can only think so, unless they want to silence me completely. But I mean,
did they give you a reason for it not coming out?
No, not really. I mean, I think they thought that I was going to get cancelled, which is why they didn't want it to go out. Okay. I
did a little research. I don't like to research too much. Anything you want to say about that?
No, I mean there was nothing. There was really nothing to say. I've got a bit of a reputation for being a difficult character. I was addicted to crack for a long time.
Okay.
And, I was quite erratic in those years.
Yeah.
Sometimes violent, sometimes criminal. And I think the way that I lived cast a shadow over the things that I did. But I think everyone can see now that there isn't any. You know, I mean, I'm about to put 2 records out this year. So
right. Do you think they're scared of you because you're from? I mean, obviously, Fat White Family was 10 years ago, way before cancel culture was even a phrase.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think we would have got off the ground if it had been.
No. Well, thank God you did it before then.
Yeah, just about. And I think they are. I think Domino is quite a safe label anyway. They're quite conservative, really.
Yeah, they have big indie pop kind of names,
indie label.
Right? Yeah,
it's not really an indie, you know. Yeah, and I don't really know why they signed me actually. I have to say, because I remember saying to the guy who signed me, you know, that there will be trouble, and he kind of laughed it off at the time. But then there was, but you know, whatever. I've moved for a long time. It kind of got me quite down.
Yeah.
And it's taken me until this year, really, end of last year, beginning of this year, to get back into songwriting, you know.
Yeah, I saw some of your posts about it, and like, you know, this guy.
I kind of had a spiral, you know. I lost my mind a little bit.
It's really cool. You're completely honest about it and not playing the game.
No, I don't
protecting your like.
For sure, I don't see any point in you know. I don't see any point in being anything but honest about
that album is so fucking good, and obviously, like at that point, I can see how frustrating that was. It's like that could have been, and it could still be.
For sure, it was set. You know, Domino was set to really push it.
Yeah.
And I kind of built it so that I was hoping that album would come out and it would take me away from the other things that I've been involved in.
Yeah.
And it was all kind of lined up quite nicely.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen, and that's. Because of that, it's taken on a different path, but it means that the Insecure Men record, which is coming out this summer, that would never have been created. I had to kind of go back. I had to take a step backwards, and that's been interesting. Going back to kind of making more simple pop kind of music. You know, so it's all good really in the end. I'm sure its day will come one day. You know. Maybe.
Oh, it's an amazing album. I'm sure it would as well.
I quite like it being a cult record that costs £200 on Discogs. I quite like that.
£200.
I know. I wish I had a few copies left to sell.
So your experiences with the situation, like how was that like come out in the songs you're writing even since then?
Well, I mean, if you listen to the album, it's quite morbid. It's kind of it's quite opiated in its sound. There's a kind of medieval kind of thing that you can kind of channel. I don't know. It's like, you know, like Nico has it on her solo records. Yeah. There's a kind of like history of it. There's some kind of correlation between opiates and this kind of medieval European cold kind of folky sound. I don't really know what it is, but there's elements of that on there. I mean, of course, I was high when I wrote it and when I recorded it. When, you know, sometimes when I've played it and it comes out. Yeah.
Nico's like a good reference, of course, because it's that mid-60s fluty hit, right?
Exactly.
John Cale? John Cage?
John Cale produced that. Yeah, produced her records. Yeah. I mean, I'm a massive fan of all of her solo stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Of this wretchedly poised, demoniac. End of all choice.
What draws you to the music that you love?
Well, lots of different things. I go through stages. Boom. That was Austin Spare. I go through different stages. And recently, I've kind of stopped listening to music. Actually, I got into kind of field recordings, and then I started getting into kind of just sound recordings, and then spoken word stuff. And I've found myself really not listening to that much music actually, and listening to more, like I say, field recordings and stuff like that. I mean, I have playlists on YouTube that I save things on, my playlist is called Deep Bog Sound 2.
Is it public?
Tell us.
It's public.
Tell us more.
So you can have a look for yourself. I got really into classical music, and I've listened to a lot of classical music over the last few years.
Yeah.
Mostly classical music and jazz, and then I got to a stage where I stopped really listening to music at all. I kind of got pissed off with music
Yeah.
because I had the struggles of trying to survive as a musician.
Yeah.
And then I got, like I said, I got interested in classical stuff, and I started making experimental music and drone music. And I thought that I could kind of sidestep from being in the kind of indie world into just being an avant-garde kind of composer with ease. And it didn't. I mean, it kind of like, it's a very difficult thing to do. I mean, people that work in that world are very like learned and.
Yeah. Oh, right. It's
very
intimidating to like.
Well, not intimidating. I just couldn't get. It's like you have to start from the bottom, and it didn't really happen. I wasn't dedicated enough to that one thing. I'm not dedicated enough to any one thing to pursue it.
Okay,
Totally.
so like at some point something else distracted you and you went in a different direction.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to write songs again. I started, I always end up writing country songs, what I think of as country songs.
You said earlier about this process, like recently or always been like that way.
I mean, I've always listened to country music, like kind of 3-chord songs, simple songs, folk songs, and as I've kind of become more I used to hide my voice in a lot of effects and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And as I get older, I just don't see the need to do that. I don't see the need to try and write. I used to try and always write weird songs about serial killers and things like that.
Yeah.
Now I'm quite happy just to sing about how I feel, which is kind of boring in a way, but the older I get, the less I want to mask things. The more comfortable I am just being myself.
That is the mature artist, right? Like, not using anything you don't need.
For sure. I don't know if I'm mature, but I am.
Maturer.
I'm trying. Yes.
Well, we're artists. We'll never be mature, I guess.
I hope that.
Is your musical mind always on?
No.
Like you said earlier that you stopped listening to music
I had
and
to switch it off.
Yeah.
I had to switch it off, and it was always on. Before I would always have a song be writing a song in my head.
Yeah.
And it's only now that you actually asked me that I really think about it, and I haven't. I don't have that thing these days where I'm always, if I'm walking down the street, I'm working on something. I've kind of switched it off. I write a lot more these days. I write a lot more poetry and stuff like that. Bad poetry that I don't show anyone.
I don't know. I mean,
Unless you're unlucky enough to
I
be
write
at my
lyrics and like
4 a.m.
I see you as the more of like the poet type of lyricist. And
I mean, a lot of my lyrics in the past were written by the old singer in the Fat Whites, the singer in the Fat Whites.
yeah.
I was always very unsure about my own words. But now I'm more comfortable with it. But no, to answer your question, my musical mind is not always on that.
You've learnt to switch it off at times.
Yeah, it was it drove me a bit mad.
Wait, yeah, of course.
Especially when I was making this drone music, 'Cause it was
Can only imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, makes me feel uneasy even thinking about it now.
What's the difference between like when you were in a band and writing as that like ensemble piece and your process is to now on your own as a solo artist?
Well, my writing process now is a lot less filtered. Like I said, it's I tend not to. If something comes out, I tend to just go with it. I don't question it. I don't question myself as much. It's less contrived, and I think I'm more aware of what I'm good at and what I'm bad at, and I'm trying to write. I try and write more melodic music. I feel there's a real lack of melodic music, certainly within the musical scene that I play, and there just seems to only be people talking and saxophones and violins. Yeah,
people are too cool to like just write a song that people just want to like touch them by the heart and sing along to.
Yeah,
in a simple way.
I miss that.
Well, the album is like super like catchy, like, you know what I mean? Like when I started playing it, I was like, I mean, it really plays like an album, you know what I mean? The songs, you're like, oh yeah, like, you feel like you've heard it before, and it's really enjoyable in that songwriting way.
That's how I intended it to be. I hoped it would be taken as a whole kind of piece of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, that's another thing that there seems to be less of these days. I mean, naturally.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
I think to engage anyone for an hour or half an hour is kind of a challenge.
How important is community to you?
Not that important. I've moved around a lot. I've always been a bit of not a loner, but I've shifted from different groups. My life has been kind of one, you know, living in serious addiction for more than 10 years. You know, that takes you. You're in the community of junkies.
Yeah.
Then you have to leave the community of junk. You know, so I've been in many different communities that I've had to leave, and so I've kind of managed to become quite self-sufficient like that. Of course, I have a community of friends. I do miss being involved in the music scene on a kind of grassroots kind of level, where I used to put on my own shows and book local bands, and that was a time when I really enjoyed being part of a community. But I can't return to that now. And I lived in France for 7-8 years.
Right.
And then I had to move back here. So coming back to London, which I did last year, and I go to the windmill and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know anyone there anymore, you know. And I'm like 10 years older than everyone else.
Yeah.
And like I'm looking at the people in the mosh pit, and I kind of want to get involved, but I'm a bit too self-conscious, and I don't drink. I'm not as hammered as I used to be.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of accept your position.
But you thanked Lou Smith on you know, where I assume that the cover is like Where Would We Be Without You, Lou, right?
Oh, that's just on his cover. That's not on every cover.
Right, okay.
Jesus Christ.
Right. Oh my God, that's so clever of him, right?
Yeah, but I thank Lou, of course, but not that much.
Yeah.
No, but like Lou filmed our first show. And he came to our first rehearsals, and he was there the whole time.
Yeah.
And now, when I come back to London, and I'm meeting young people at gigs and stuff, and they, you know, people come from. I met people from Australia, from Brazil, that knew Lou Smith's page, and felt the need to come to South London because of the videos they'd seen. Yeah, you know, so he's become a legend actually.
Yeah.
Which is
being not selfish and just like putting bands on and recording them at gigs.
He's a true fan of music.
Yeah.
He's a true fan of gigs.
Leaving outside the world that I have tamed, sweet agony, watching you been framed. I see a trace of myself in everyone, and so I take so long.
I feel like all culture is kind of is dying. Actually, I think everything's dying.
Yeah.
And so there's things that it's hard to find stuff to be inspired by if you like what I like. And so I think it's not a choice. It's not a choice, but I think it goes hand in hand with how wasted. Being wasted and being partying and stuff like that, and kind of not really living that same lifestyle anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, what you've been through, your experience is quite rare. Not to be addicted, but to come from a big band and go through that, and then, well, everything we talked about is not many people have been through that, so it's not a common perspective, I guess.
No, for sure, and it does leave you kind of on the outside of things a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's not something I'm like.
Yeah. You say you've always felt like a bit of an outsider.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I have been. I always have been.
Yeah. Okay, to other outsiders out there starting off, young outsiders of your ilk, I guess, what would you if you could give them any advice?
Advice I would give them. I don't know. I'm not really the best person for advice.
Yeah.
But I would say find what it is that you love and follow it kind of ruthlessly.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to kind of make enemies.
Right.
I think people need to be less afraid of making enemies.
Yeah. People are terrified of making
Absolutely.
enemies.
Especially artists. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's important for artists to almost. It can be a prop that you use to your advantage. You know, and to wear masks and to unsettle people can be an important part of your artistic process. I hate that sentence that just came out of my mouth. You know, you can have your platform removed.
Yeah.
You can have your job. I mean, you know, but no one can ever take away your ability to enjoy art and music or make it. If you're willing to really, if you're willing to pursue it ruthlessly and like dedicatedly, at the cost of many other things, then you'll find some kind of enlightenment in it.
Right.
But it might not bring you the things that you want or, you know, dream of at the beginning.
Yeah.
I had no desire to make any kind of artistic statement or express myself even. I wasn't really interested in that. I think that's
because you were expressing like a different version of yourself, or you weren't ready.
I really just wanted to. It was more, you know, there wasn't depth in it. You know, for me, it was just literally about getting fucked up and having fun with my friends. You know, being buffoons really. Right. That was really all that interested me. Having a laugh actually. Yeah. You know, they're not some kind of deep artistic mission. Sure,
but you started super young, like before Fat Whites. You were. You were pretty. What was the name of the band you were in before Fat Whites?
Metros.
The Metros.
My first band.
Yeah, man. Like, how old were you when that took off?
We were signed when we were 17.
Wow.
And we started when we were 15.
Fucking hell, crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, it's true. That's the thing. I've been doing it my whole life.
Yeah. What do you want people to take away from your music?
I don't want anyone to do anything really. I can't even think about that.
It's not your concern, right?
It's not my concern, and I'm not interested either. You know, it's like I don't give a fuck what people think or like or take away from it. Yeah. I don't. You know. It doesn't really bother me if people like it or not. Really. Yeah. In a way, I'd rather split opinion than be universally kind of loved, which I don't think there's any danger of that happening. Well, yeah. I mean, if everyone likes it, it's probably not that good, right? No. Yeah, kind of Coldplay territory, I suppose.
I thought you might answer the question like that. Last question: what is your purpose as an artist?
What do you feel it is?
I mean, that's a big question. What's my purpose as an artist? Well, it's hard for me to say. You know, it's hard to say without sounding like a real dickhead. But I have to give it a go. My purpose as an artist probably is to be a bit of a thorn in the side of whatever's kind of fashionable. I'm kind of kicking against the pricks. Yeah. Which is what Saul did in the Bible, I think. You know, going against the grain. Yeah. Essentially. Yeah. That really does sound like tosser stuff. But
not how you said it, I don't think so. But, I mean, that's what we need, right?
Yeah. But I mean, even if I didn't want that to be the case, by looking back at my history, I'd have to say that that's really what I'm drawn to. You know, your purpose is at the end, and I'm not at the end. Yeah. True. So if there's any advice that I can give to young people looking to kind of start in music and be professional musicians, get signed and whatnot, if there was any advice that I could give to people in that position. Actually, the reason I'm doing this gig tonight is because it's put on by a friend of mine, a young guy, who asked me that question, and I said the best thing you can do is start your own night and ask your friends to play, and try and pull some favours from people that you know who are in a higher position in the industry than you. That's why I'm here tonight. So that's my advice really, is to start your own scene, start your own thing. Try and make a
community.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, you can. Yeah, for sure. Make a community. But there's something about the word community that makes me think of people kind of holding hands and
Sure.
you know, like
Yeah.
you know, there's something kind of that's not my kind of community.
Sure.
But,
We got him on the end. Thanks to you wording it in that right way, right?
Sure. No, start
Yeah.
a community or start a scene. You know, start a movement.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not so egalitarian, community minded. You know, I think better that artists be leaders, leading movements and manipulating people.
Yeah.
Than inviting them to kind of share their breakfast.
That's so profound.
Oh Jesus, I don't want it to be.
That's okay.
Saul
But thanks.
Adamczewski,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Cheers, man.
Great interview. Look forward to your gig tonight.
Great.
Adventures in Limbo. Check it out. It's on Spotify,
Yeah.
even though it's not
And
released.
let me just do a quick plug from my I've got a record coming out at the end of the month. Record. It's called The Coward, and it's with featuring a guy called John S. Hall, who used to be in a band called King Missile, and that's coming out end of this month on Crack Copies label, and it's a kind of weird spoken word exotica record with a legend of the American spoken word scene. So yeah, excited about that. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Adamczewski.
Saul and
One last question.